Buddy, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. And you'll notice this morning that I have Pia and Cullen with us, Pia Orleane and Cullen Baird Smith from the Pleiadian-Astrology, Pleiadian calendar fame. We'll call it fame because it's becoming more and more popular, I'm guessing. And it's so good to see the both of you and to have you both back with me. Welcome. Oops, they froze. Or am I frozen? Well, I think we'll have to wait for them to come back in. But as you can see, they're with us and they were ready to say hello. And then suddenly something happened. So I'll say good morning to all of you. Good morning, Tom. It's good to see you. And Tom says love and gratitude for all the happy fall and spring. I know, I'm so excited about it, right? Good morning, Michelle, and good morning, Christine. She says they are frozen. Thank you for letting me know that. I might have to, let me see if I can remove them so that they can come back in, or I'll add them back. Let's see. Well, when they come back in, I'll bring them in. And our hope was to talk a bit about what's going on with the Pleiadian calendar. In the meantime, I hope all of you are doing well. Good morning, Vanita and Ursula. Good to see you. And J-Lo, good to see you. Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel, good to see you. Last night, so I've had, quite the interesting several days. I mean, it's been an interesting several days. Let's just say that. As yesterday, we got to, I had purchased back in July, I think it was, tickets to see Matt Fraser, who is a... Tom, oh my God, that's funny. I had purchased tickets to see Matt Fraser, who's a medium. And we were expecting, hopefully to be one of the people that would have a loved one that's passed come through. And of course, I was hoping specifically for Brian. And Brian did not come through. But it was a fascinating thing to watch. And now, Debbie Tibbetts and I, we had gone on a cruise a couple of years back. And on that cruise was John Holland, who is also a psychic medium, and Colette Baron-Reed. And she's mostly known for cards, but she's also a pretty good medium in her own right. So I got to see that live then in a live audience, but it was a little different because we were on a Zoom-like platform, and seeing him be able to do what he does, like on the just like things rolling in, and he does it so effortlessly, and it was wonderful to watch that happen. So that was interesting, even if nothing was coming through from him to us, but watching other people, it was still very satisfying to do that. But then my daughter joined this group on Facebook. It's called Mediumship and Psychic Training. That's the group. And they take turns doing readings with pictures. So someone will post a picture, and then the group is invited to share their insights about what they're seeing about that person. I was astounded. Finally, Heather was able to share Brian's picture in the group. And I was so amazed at what was coming through the people, things that would just hit right on, things that people should have no reason to know, right? No reason to know. The group, my daughter's Facebook page is private. So it's not like these people could go stalk her Facebook page and find out information and then bring it back. And my Facebook page, as you might know, I don't post very much. I post a lot of astrology stuff on my Living Astrology page, but I haven't posted much personal stuff just because it seems to always get picked up and used against people. And so I don't do much on my own personal Facebook page. So it was really it's been gratifying to see how we easily can connect to the other side. And I know that all of us are capable of doing that. But it's just shocking when you see that so many people can come up with things that they would have no other way of knowing. So amazing, amazing. Let's say good morning to Kathleen Mallory. It's good to see you. Amanda J. Hello to you. Carol Grogine. Good morning. Irene from Sweden. Much love to everyone. Wonderful to see Pia and Cullen again. Their calendar is so inspiring. I have it here on the wall. I hope that they can come back in. I'm going to, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to invite them in again. And that might take me just a minute, and I'm going to look like I'm not listening to you or talking to you, but maybe they need a new link. Oops, I can't send it to Gmail. There we go. Send it to Pia. There we go. Good. Okay, so while I'm waiting for hopefully for them to come back in, let's talk some astrology, shall we? Because it's actually going to be a pretty good weekend. Although I just feel this need to prepare everybody for what comes next in the fall. And oh, by the way, there they are. They're back.
We don't know what happened, but you froze, and then we got knocked off after you froze. So something happened.
But as everybody was seeing you froze, you actually were the ones that had frozen up. And then eventually I removed you from the thing so that you could, I was hoping you'd think, come back in.
Yeah, it took a minute, but we got there.
Yay. So you can ignore the link I just sent again. But good to have you back. Everybody said, let's see, what did Tom say? Tom, is always good for a laugh. He said, can you unplug them and plug them back in? So good to have you back. I was just preparing to launch into all of my astrology stuff. I'll put that on hold. Again, welcome to the show, and tell us, how have you been? I haven't talked to you since the time we met in June.
We have been like everybody else on the planet, having things move at an unbelievable fast pace, watching things being revealed from all different directions, changes every time you turn around. It's been like everybody else, I think.
Is any of it surprising to you guys? I mean, I sit back sometimes and I'm kind of like stunned at what I see going on. Not overly surprised, but a little bit stunned at times at the magnitude of things. What about you guys?
Well, that's a yes and no answer, because we've been watching things speed up for the last couple of years. And we've also experienced times where it seems like time has just stopped completely, that we're not moving forward. We're not really doing anything. So I think it's part of the duality that this planet is all about. I think we're experiencing both extremes, either, and this is going to sound funny, but simultaneously or sequentially. But it's hard to tell sometimes, because it just seems confusing and predictable at the same time.
So yes, sometimes we feel stunned like you and go, we never thought we'd be in this situation. And other times we feel like, yep, we could see this coming. So it is very dualistic.
Which makes it very disconcerting, doesn't it? It keeps you guessing like any other day, like what's going to happen today.
How about what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes?
That's true too. That's true too.
Some of our days, Janet, just buzz by. I mean, we're busy doing things, and we rarely look at the clock because we're busy every day. But sometimes the days just zoom by, and then the next day we'll notice that it drags on, and it's like the clock hasn't even moved hour after hour after hour. So what we think is happening is what Larkma describes as liquid time.
Ooh, I like that.
We are no longer in a normal
TikTok
everyday experience where we feel that, well, we watch the clock, it moves around in a normal way. That just isn't happening anymore. We're experiencing faster, slower, faster, slower.
So time is actually dissolving the way that we have been told for a really long time is going to occur. It is actually occurring. Time doesn't exist in the way we have always used it to schedule our lives.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I sometimes feel like there's a bifurcation. Like there's some people that have become way more time oriented, And then there are others like us, and probably a lot of my listeners here today, that feel like they're like that time is sometimes there and sometimes not. I even have the feeling sometimes of almost like being pulled out of this reality. And that sounds like dissociation on a psychology thing. And that's definitely not what I'm feeling. It's almost like I almost feel like there's this big, I don't know what to say, like a shift coming, a split coming.
Yeah.
And maybe we're being prepared for that.
I think so. And we said something before we went on the air. You mentioned that maybe we're not feeling as though we're here all the time, that we're actually possibly somewhere else. And I think that has to do with what we're talking about right now. I think we're moving interdimensionally, whether we're aware of it or not, whether it's a conscious understanding or whether we're just waving in and out. But it seems to us that we're spending a lot of time not in normal 3D reality.
Elsewhere. Here's a funny little aside to that, Janet.
Yes.
This morning, Cullen and I both woke up with scraped elbows, like we had been crawling on our elbows or had brushed against something. Both of us woke up with scraped elbows. No idea why. We didn't do anything to cause that, but something happened in the night, probably in another dimension. We came back to this dimension. There was evidence we'd been somewhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have these sensations sometimes when we wake up in the morning where we know we've been at work somewhere, not just dreaming or not just lying in bed. Sometimes we know where we've been, but sometimes we don't. And this experience that Pia just described is one of those, we don't know what happened, but we came back with something that's evident that something did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I haven't had that kind of thing where the evidence is on my body somehow when I get up in the morning. But I have had these instances where I can't distinguish between the dream world and what's real. And I'm going to give you a great example. I don't know where I got this, but I have this distinct memory of viewing a black widow spider in a sort of a crawl space or in a closet, like outdoors, not indoors, certainly. I don't think we have black widow spiders here where I live. If we do, they certainly aren't visible. And so I'm thinking, was that a dream? But I can't remember a dream either of a black widow spider. So I've been going around. Yesterday, I was putting some groceries away in a cabinet that I have outdoors, and we only put, unperishables out there. So I opened it up and I thought, is this where I saw the black widow spider? And I'm looking around. No, this doesn't look familiar, because in the dream, for lack of a better word, I was looking sort of into a deeper place. And that has been nagging at me now for almost 6 days, right? Today would be the 6th day. And I don't know why. A black widow, and she wasn't after me. It wasn't like I was in danger. It was an observation, but I can't tell you if it was real or from a dream or a real dream. Lucid
I don't think it's a dream. I think it's a dimensional shift, that you are in a different reality. And I think that's happening to a lot of us right now.
Yeah.
Where we can't tell the distinction between this reality and somewhere else that is absolutely just as real, because we are traveling more interdimensionally now. And often do it at night.
Yeah. So if you guys are out there, to our listeners, I want you to share any stories that you're having like that, so we can bring those, because I think it makes us all feel better when we know we're not alone. The fact that you guys came back with scraped elbows makes me go, oh, so maybe I am traveling somewhere. I just haven't scraped my elbows yet.
Well, I've been back with battle scars for a couple of years now. It's been quite a while. Cuts, bruises. This is the first time we've come back with simultaneous scraped elbows, but we do come back with gashes or cuts that we didn't do anything to cause, or big bruises where we didn't bump into anything or fall. It's been a regular part of our world for quite some time, and it's increasing now.
And we've talked to other people around the world about this. We thought maybe we were making this up. I mean, how would we be doing some activity in another realm out of our bodies and yet come back and have a physical representation of something that actually happened elsewhere. And so we've been talking to people for years about this, and a lot of people have very similar stories about they come back either really tired. When they wake up in the morning, they're really tired, even though they believe they've had a full night's sleep, or they come back with a scrape or a dent or a ding. And we've heard it enough times now to know that we're not crazy, that something is actually happening out there in another experience.
Yeah, bruises, right? Sometimes, I mean, I don't bruise very easily. So when I get a bruise, I'm very aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that hasn't happened to me, but I'm sure it has to others. And I'm looking at the people talking out here. And let's see, J-Lo says, I've seen the proof in my own children and before I have had it. Allison D, good morning. She says, OMG, I feel the same thing. Let's see, Christine, time has become very strange. This makes a lot of sense. And Ursula, will we soon have the ability to see the starships and craft as part of a global disclosure? Great question, Ursula. What do you guys think?
I don't think it requires governmental disclosure to see what's already there. But I do think as our perception increases and we are able to see more broadly without our limited belief systems, we can see them. They're there. We see them all the time. We have for a long time. They're there.
Yeah, she says global disclosure, not government disclosure. So I'm thinking she's like, they're going to reveal themselves to us kind of thing.
Oh, I think they're doing that. I think they are doing that now already. They are revealing themselves to us, but unfortunately, we're not very good at reading signs and symbols.
You
and
think?
We don't interpret what's in front of us very easily. So, they're probably banging their heads against the collective global wall going, why don't these humans see us? We're right here.
Well, yes, but worldwide sightings are increasing. I mean, it's the actual physical manifestation of more and more people, normal, regular people, not woo-woo people, not people who are totally involved in the whole UFO phenomenon. There are people in every country who are seeing unusual things in the sky, day or night, that are reporting these things. So it's absolutely increasing. And what we think is that there's going to be an equalization of all of the dark energies that have been doing so many things in these past couple of years, especially. There's so much going on that there will be an equalization of things from a much lighter energetic position. And I think as that happens, I think more contact, I think more interest will develop between humanity and other intelligent beings from all over the universe.
I'm so in agreement with you. And I think the one thing that they're waiting for is the human status of shadows and fear to dissolve some more. And that's so interesting because it's been a drumbeat in my head over the last few days, especially as I was starting to look at October's energies, moving through the gateway of the fall, autumn equinox. Always prompts me to think about fear and shadows because now we have the sun moving through Libra and then on into Scorpio. And in human design, those two signs reside mostly in the spleen energy. And the spleen energy in our human design is all about survival. And so the gates or the energies in that center can sometimes double as fear or shadow energy. So I'm always looking at that this time of year and also in March and April, because then the earth is moving through those fear phases today or now that it's the sun. And as we get ready to do this next month, every outer planets or the big planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto all move out of their retrograde phase and into their direct phase, which means now we are having to take everything that was happening internally and externalize the process. And as well, Mercury turns retrograde and then also back to direct motion in the same window. So when the planets are all doing that little dance, that wobble, that tells us that it's the opportunity for us to do a lot of changing and transforming personally, but also collectively on the planet. And I meant to look this up, Pia, you might know more directly. Most of that energy shifts and ends by the first week in November. But are we not looking at another Pleiadian shadow period coming up in December?
No, we don't have another Pleiadian shadow cycle until January.
January. Okay, good. So we get a little bit of rest
Just a bit.
to gain some perspective, and then we can go into that shadow period. This is a good thing.
Actually, I'm wrong. It's not even January. It's February. It starts on
even better.
February the 13th. It starts for 3 weeks.
And that just gave me chill bumps, because that is bracketing the USA Pluto return, which happens, I believe, February 22nd.
Yes.
222, right? 222. So we have a lot of signs about things to come. But I think that then knowing that we have that little bit of gap means that makes me feel so much better for humanity, because we have time to work through the last of the big fears that we have, or that big shadow energies on the planet, hopefully, right? And the other thing that just drives me to keep doing what I do is that it's an individual thing. It's not like I can go out and say, hey, living astrology community, I command all of you to let go of your fears and your shadow energies and be clean and light from today on. I'm saying that, and I hope that works. But I'm realistic, right? That it's a pathway that all of us have to walk separately, but in the walking of that path separately, we do it collectively, if that makes sense.
It does.
It does.
One of the things that Cullen and I have been talking about and looking at deeply, because we're always interested in this work of what else is to be revealed, what else is to be learned, how else do we grow? One of the things we've been talking about lately is, in doing shadow work, one of the biggest things we can do is let go of who we think we are. We think we have come this far in life and we've defined ourselves by this relationship, this job, this personality, all of it put together. This is who I am, and I know I'm going to speak my truth. But we forget that there's a whole continuum of parallel lives going on. And we're here in this one to integrate them, which means there's a whole lot of blind spots that we have. So many times we have emotional reactions or overreactions to something, and we don't even know why. And that's the hidden stuff that we've got to clear out from the fears and the shadows. It's really important work right now.
Well, and there's a further aspect to this too. Many of us believe that we've done a whole lot of work, and that maybe we've completed all of the shadow material that we either brought with us here or we created as we're moving and growing in these personalities in 3D. However, we're noticing that many things seem to be resurfacing, and many of us have said, well, I'm done with that. I took care of that. It's finished. I've moved on. Well, what we're finding in our own lives and what we're watching in other people's lives is maybe some of that shadow work didn't quite get as cleaned up as we thought it did.
Because the conscious part has done the work, but the part that's unconscious doesn't realize there's a blockage. And we have to look at those blockages. And sometimes the reflection of just the emotional material coming up is like a ding, ding, ding. There's work to do here. Otherwise you wouldn't be emotionally overreacting.
Yeah. And I think Pluto has such an enormous effect on this, because
of course you do, Mr. Capricorn. Right? He's turning your life upside down.
It has.
Pluto's been turning Cullen's life upside down for quite a while now. We are cheering for when Pluto moves on into Aquarius.
Yeah. For me, it's been a very big personal topic. But as you said, individually and collectively, Pluto has had an enormous effect on everyone, regardless of their astrological makeup.
And regardless of the fact that they demoted him to dwarf planet. I mean,
exactly.
Just shows a name doesn't mean much.
Right. And Pluto continues to change the nature of the things he rules, which are power and institutions, the big governments and things like that. So all of the things that we thought were solid, our governments, our education system, the healthcare system, and you name it, all those big things, the military, etc., that we thought we would never see big upsets in, or at least we hoped we'd never see, are under the pressure to change, to transform, or die, right? And no matter what, it's all about a death and a rebirth in some way, shape, or form. And that's disruptive. And in our human design charts, something interesting that I noted last year, all through 2020, was that Pluto sat in a gate whose shadow is psychosis, right? So everything had this sort of level of mental psychosis with it, everything. Reactions that people had, to COVID, or reactions that people had to individuals, to just all kinds of things. And he has now retrograded back into that gate. So we're again dealing with the shadow of psychosis. It's like we can't get rid of it unless we work with it, right? We have to work through it.
Working through it. We're laughing when you brought this up a minute ago. Larkma told us years ago that there would come a time on Earth when mental illness would increase exponentially, and that people would not understand what they were going through or how to cope with enormous changes in their lives, which would cause a psychosis for many. And we've noticed in the past 2 years during the COVID experience that what they don't make predictions, but they make, how would you say it, Pia?
They show perspectives from a broader view. And
what they told us years and years ago has actually come true in the last couple of years. We've noticed people acting very strangely in public.
Let's just say having psychotic reactions in public. That covers it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing experience to watch people do the most interesting, chaotic, unusual things, both personally and publicly. And I guess Pia and I have been waiting for this, and it has arrived.
I so agree. I don't want to leave people hanging. I don't want to leave you guys hanging, because the shadow energy it's obvious, right? We can see the shadow energy. But the level up, like if we looked at that energy as a hologram, the next level up, if you moved out of the shadow of psychosis, you get to wonder, you get to awe, you get to magic, right? You get to this beautiful, mystical sense. So the potential for Pluto is to restore us to that mystical wonder that we once had as human beings, in the great times of, Camelot, or the great mystics, or the times of the magicians and wizards and so forth on the planet, where, I believe that was a real superpower that humanity had that we forgot about. And because we let go of our wonder about magic and about magical things for the scientific edge, which always wanted to deconstruct everything, find out how it works. Let's take this thing apart and put it back together again. And we lost the magic. So I think the potential for us at this point is to restore the magic. This conversation, to me, feels like there's this edge of magic. What does it mean that we can be in two different realities, or more than two different realities, and all of that? And I think when we get back to that magical, not that I'm saying we leave science behind, I'm not saying that at all. I think we have to have that magical realism. That's what I like about this. I think in the gene keys, let me check that. I think the gate 61 is called magical realism. It might be the gate 60. Let me check real quickly here. Nope, 61 is cracking, or 60 is cracking of the vessel. Yeah, the Holy of Holies. Magical realism. Love it. So the holiest of holies is when we're in the magical, the mystical, the wonder, and the awe, not when we're in the psychosis of trying to, I don't even know what it is we're trying to do anymore in the psychosis. Do you guys have a clue?
I think it's breaking out of who we think we are.
Maybe.
And integrating all the other aspects of who we really are and beginning to recognize that we're divine sparks of light. And therefore, we have no reason to judge anyone or blame anyone or get angry at anyone. Those are all things that we are letting go of. No judgment, no blame, no emotional reactivity, but just acceptance of, oh, you're on a different path than me. Okay, well, good luck to you. And that's it.
I think the trick, and I think using the word trick is a really good term here. The trick is simply to use the educational makeup of our shadows to go deeper, to go deeper, to go deeper, to really understand what Pia said a moment ago about realizing maybe we're not who we really think we are. And I think the only way to get to the magic, the only way to get to the mystical, deep understanding that you described, Janet, a moment ago, is to utilize the ability to get through the shadow, do the work we have to do, whether that has to do with Pluto specifically, going deeper, 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 or from other aspects or other avenues. It doesn't really matter. We have to do the work. Unless we do the work individually first, we're not going to clean up the collective mess. It has to start at home. Mm-hmm. And if we can use our shadows to clean up everything that needs to be looked at and everything that needs to be challenged, we're not going to get anywhere. So Pluto obviously has a great influence, but shadow work is just so important in this moving towards not only who we really are, but getting out of this mess into a magical and mystical place where we belong.
And from that magical, mystical place, we begin to really see each other differently. I truly believe that it's when we are willing to go into the magic or into the mystic that we value what we see in other people in a way, because we're valuing ourselves in that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that really holds a key for the planet in general is, getting back from remembering. Because I think you said this earlier, Pia, or maybe you said this, Cullen, that we don't know who we are, or we've forgotten who we really are, or who we think we are is not who we really are, kind of thing.
That's it.
Yeah, so we have work to do. Now, I just want to say really quickly for those of you who may just be joining us or who are joining us in a podcast that today we're sitting here speaking with Pia Orleane and Cullen Baird Smith from the Pleiadian-Earth Calendar and Astrology. And it's the first time they've been with us since June. The summer just got all whacked out. And they will be with me again on, oh boy, I'm going to screw this up, Pia. I wrote it down. October 15th, November 19th, and December 17th. So if you're just catching the tail end of this, you can pick up the recording a little bit later or join us again on one of those three broadcasts, the third Friday of the month from here through December. And now let's go back to this conversation because I'm seeing that people are really resonating with what we're saying. Somebody said something just profoundly spot on. What was it? J-Lo. She goes, or she said first, yes, there is magic. And then she says, just look up.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, just look up. Just, you know what? Look up from your gosh darn cell phone or your tablet or whatever you're looking at, because we're so caught up here that we're not really looking out or up anymore. And that's where the magic is. It's not on your cellular device.
Absolutely not. You know, somebody said, I can't quote who this was, but someone said once that humans don't look up very often. We're so busy doing what we're doing. We're looking either at the ground as we walk, or we're looking at whatever job or whatever activity we're involved with, but rarely do we look up. And I think that's really important, because there's so much more that we're missing if we're only concentrated on what we're doing physically in a 3D sort of mentality.
Yeah. That's how I'm always seeing eagles and crows and ravens, and I see so much in the skies, right? But someone else just now brought up a good point. KWWL Rocks says, "Look within. It starts there." I love that. That's a truth that we can't ignore. Is that, you know, we think everything just resides outside of us, but there's a whole magical realm that we carry within us, the well, if you will, right? The deep inner knowing, instinct, intuition, history of who we are, all within us.
And that is where the connection begins with everything.
Right. Absolutely. So today, if you guys have any questions, go ahead. I'm still looking at the chat stream. So if you have questions for Cullen or you have questions for Pia, this is your opportunity to ask questions. And I'm going to ask you guys to tell me what is Larkma's messaging about lately? What is the group sharing about what's going on with our world, how we're doing, that kind of thing?
Well, basically, Larkma is telling us that it's time that we take the blinders off of our eyes and look at the truth of what's really going on. Not to listen to the news media or to some higher source, but listen to your own heart, your own intuition, and truly see the interwoven pattern of everything that's going on. Because humanity has been in a fog for a really long time, and we have been manipulated and controlled into certain positions to play out a certain agenda. That agenda can cause evolution to be accelerated, but only by our participation, by seeing what is here and actively engaging. We have to take the power to say no and say yes when it's appropriate for anything, but not just because of our belief systems or something we've been told, but from the greater perspective of inner knowing. That's one thing they're really big on. They've also been talking about the great split that they've been telling us was coming for a really long time.
Well, that is extremely important, understanding that society has split. There are so many people believing one scenario and so many other people believing another scenario. But something I want to add on top of what Pia said, they've been talking about responsibility a lot. They've been talking about the fact that humanity has not been very responsible in allowing what's happening in our world, that we have allowed so many things to happen that we should have said no to. Not just recently, but for many, many years. There have been so many things that we've been told are the truth, or that things that we have to agree to or rely on that haven't been true from the very beginning. But we've been told by authorities, whether that's religious, governmental, educational, corporate, it doesn't matter where it comes from. They've been trying to help humanity understand that we should have been saying no all along to things that our hearts have disagreed with. We've allowed our mental capacity to shake our heads and say, oh, well, if you're telling me this is so, I must believe it, and I will just lockstep with what you tell me. They've been telling humanity for years, for a couple of decades now, we have to take more responsibility in the choices that we're making and not simply believe what we're being told. So I think part of the mess that we've created, we're responsible for individually and collectively. And it's time that we, as Pia said a moment ago, appropriately use no just as often as we use yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell anybody that when I'm doing a human design reading, that, it's about saying yes to the right things and saying no to the correct things too. So yeah, that makes complete and total sense. One of the things that you were saying just reminded me of something that we'll often talk about with people who don't like what they're seeing in their outer world. And that is, then you've got to go into your inner world and check where that is coming from, because the outer world is always a picturing of what's going on in the inner. And we do that individually, but we also do this collectively. And so it drives me crazy right now. I'll tell you what's really driving me crazy is that when we are all focused on the negative things that governments or news media and things like that they're telling us. I'm not saying whether they're right or they're wrong. I'm not saying that at all. So let's just take climate change, because I think we can all see through the summer here in the northern hemisphere and probably through the winters in the southern hemisphere that there's been some big change going on with the climate. But if we keep focusing on whose fault it is it humanity's fault, right? What did we do? Then we're not creating solutions for it. We're focusing on the problem, not the solution. And the same thing keeps happening over and over again. We keep getting the messaging about how horrible it is, or about, and again, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying whatever we're focusing on outside or inside that we're projecting outside is what we're going to see in that outer world. So if we're focusing on climate change because, it's hot, it's cold, or it's, crazy rain, flooding, all of that, which are facts. Those things are happening. But if we focus on that as a problem, we create more of that problem in the outer world. And I think that's we do that all the time in the littlest ways and in the biggest ways. And what you said, Cullen, about taking responsibility is exactly right. You have to take responsibility for the part that you're playing in the collective manifestation of whatever, the good and the bad. I'm not saying that you're not also responsible for the beauty and the harmony, but you also have to know that the only way that you can change that is by changing what you're focusing on here, right here. Absolutely.
Janet, you must have been with us last night. We did a sound check for an upcoming podcast that will be interviewed for in the future. And during the sound check, we ended up having a half an hour or 45-minute chat with the people that are going to be interviewing us, instead of just doing the sound check as a sound check. And we were talking exactly about what you're bringing up right now.
I love it. It's in the field.
The conversation this is the time where the conversation is coming up to the surface. We need to have this conversation anywhere and everywhere.
And it's amazing. Did you finish your thought?
Yeah.
It's amazing that we were talking. One of the interviewers was talking about some of the people in the world that are doing some things that many of us don't like. And I'm not going to bring up any names because that won't help. But we were talking about, instead of being mad at them, or instead of being upset or frustrated, sending them negative energy is only empowering them more and more and more. What we need to do is send them compassion. We need to send them the love and the light that's missing in their lives. And by doing that, we will break that chain of the negativity. And that's exactly what you just brought up. And I think so many people are focusing on, I don't like this person. I don't like their agenda. I don't like what they're doing. And they're just adding to what we don't want. It's like protesting a war, or having a war on cancer, or a war on this, or a war on that.
Exactly. A war on terror.
The terminology isn't helping. It's only creating more negativity. What we need to do is open up and simply send the light and the love that's missing, either in these people's lives specifically, or in their companies, or what they're doing in the outer world. And by doing that, that's what will change the energetic makeup of what's really going on. And the more we do that, the more we can see the changes. And there are many examples. I won't go into this right now, but there are examples of when people do that, they can see that the people that they're sending the love and light to actually possibly in some circumstances change their minds and change what they're doing. It's actually happening, and we can see it.
So the ones who are making the most things that are problematic with the planet need the most of our love and compassion.
Absolutely. I so wholeheartedly agree. I mean, if we just started every night before we went to bed, even if we just did this one time a day, just saw the earth blanketed in love and compassion, and it seeps into all of the people, all of the animals, all of the plants, the waters, the land. That took me, a few seconds to say. If we could just do that, every one of us, the impact would be magnified by 7 billion.
It would.
It would. It's so simple.
Would.
It's so simple, and it takes such little energy to do that.
In fact, we actually gain energy from doing that because it's positive. Whereas every time we engage with the negativity, it drains our energy and feeds when we don't want to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You're so right. Let's see what some comments are. Good morning, Paulette Peasley. Haven't seen you in a long time. That's great to see you. Christine Buckingham says, short-term profits have been prioritized over the well-being of our planet. And that those short-term profits, though, are driven by demand, right? Mm-hmm. That there's a demand for a product, whether it's artificial or real, right? Demand for newer cars, demand for new computers, for new phones. If every time iPhone came up with a new one, you waited and you just kept your regular phone, and demanded from that company that they continue the updates, then we wouldn't be eating up all of the resources that go into making a phone, for example. So it's that we have the choice with our dollars, with our voices, with our votes, what it is that, we can vote along our values, or we can purchase along our values. So there's that. Christine also says one needs awareness of what is happening in order to change and improve things. Love and light with necessary actions taken. J-Lo, what you focus on, you attract. Exactly. Christine says every morning and night she does that process that we just talked about, sending love and compassion around the planet. And so I love that. Tom has a question. What's the general LARCMA message for the next 3 months? Oh, maybe I didn't see that message until now, Tom, but I think I asked that. Is there anything more that LARCMA, because that was the original question before we went off on our little tangents.
I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think briefly, there's still going to be a bit of a rocky road, according to LARCMA. The rest of this year is not just going to be an ease and a flow. We're still going to have challenges. We're still going to have things crop up. However, there will be some pauses where we can take a breath and we can have maybe a little bit more stability. But LARCMA's general outlook is not until January into February of 2022 will things really begin to change.
Actually, LARCMA says it'll happen in October of 2022.
Well, yes,
but there will be shifts that begin in January and February.
Into March.
So one of the things that they say that is most helpful is to try not to look at an experience as good or bad. Don't judge it. Just go, well, this is an experience and everything changes, so this is going to change too. Rather than going, oh God, this again, and I don't like this, and really resisting it. Because when we really resist it, we're giving it energy. If we just look at it non-emotionally from an attached way and say it's just an experience, and as humans, we are here to collect experiences and learn how to respond appropriately. And if we look at it that way, we don't get caught up in the drama. We just move through these difficulties and challenges, and we begin to find opportunities for deep and positive change.
I mean, don't you guys all feel that in your hearts? I mean, that's expansive and that's loving in nature. And that's something that's so within our power to achieve, right? To be able to do.
Absolutely.
Quickly, let me just say thank you all for joining us this morning. We have quite a few people that I haven't seen in here in a while, so welcome to you all. I'm just going to do a quick hit the thumbs up button if you're sitting over there on YouTube land. If you are in Facebook, hit the like button or the like. And if you are enjoying the video, maybe if you're on YouTube, you could subscribe and also share with your different social medias and networks so that we create a field of this energy being pushed out so people can hear the good news. I feel almost like a preacher sometimes in the morning. Hear the good news. So thank you for that. Tell us what's going on for you guys in the next 3 months. Are you doing any classes or courses, doing some traveling? What's up for you?
Well, it seems we have a real increase in people's being interested in Pleiadian Earth energy charts so they can look and see where their shadows are and where their own work is, and getting the calendar that we've produced. We've got a brand new 2022 calendar coming out with all the universal and the earth energies in it. That it's going to be available actually next month in October from any bookstore.
Okay, wait. I'm confused because isn't the one that we have now all the way through June?
It goes to June, but we've updated it for 2022. For the 12 months of 2022, there's a new one.
So there is a new one. So we need to get that link to people.
Yep. Okay. It's on our website, larkma.com, LARKMAA.com. And we have more people who are interested in getting the Pleiadian perspective on questions they have or having conversations with Larkma. So what we see in the next 3 months is just continuing to be of service and to more and more people finding out about our work and reaching out to see how we can support their own growth and evolution.
We also have some projects that are in the design and final production area that we're kind of keeping a little lid on until we get to the point where we're going to introduce them to the public. And we've been heavily involved in the past 3 to 5 months with a couple of these projects. And when they are ready to come to the surface, we're going to be really happy because we think some of this work that we've been doing with Larkma is really going to reach a lot of people that maybe haven't been reached through the books that we've written or the calendar or other things that we've been involved with all these years. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll be able to announce some new ideas and new projects that we're going to be really happy to be bringing to humanity and the public. So that's pretty much what we've been doing. I want to listen to you for the rest of the program and have you tell us what you want to talk about astrologically, please.
Well, thank you very much for that nice little segue to at least be able to get people some awareness of the weekend, because we do have a pretty interesting weekend. We start today with the moon in Taurus. And as of, I'm sure right this minute, we are sitting with the moon in a conjunction to Uranus, right? Uranus transiting through Taurus. So right now we have the potential to really awaken one another. I have a feeling this entire conversation this morning, and as soon as I say that, I'm getting chills, that this entire conversation is a tool to awaken people today. And how perfect with the moon, our emotional soul, inner self in a conjunction with the planet of revolution and change, right? The planet Uranus is one that we know that does things sometimes in a shocking way. So sometimes when we're shocked by something, it can be traced to Uranian awakening. And that's exactly what we need to do. And by the way, in your human design chart, remember that Uranus is sitting for long term at the gate 2, which is a gate of receptivity, of taking it in, of seeing things from an inner viewpoint, allowing, right? And this is also linked to our abundance. That whole channel that the 2 links to is the 14. It's a channel of prospering. It's a channel of doing the work that you're passionate about instead of the drudgery. I'm not saying that everybody needs to throw out the jobs that they're doing because we do still have that need to make money to feed ourselves, etc. But the more that you can devote to what you're passionate about, what you love, the more that change happens in a more positive way in your life. It's that same, going back to that same thing we talked about a little earlier, what you're focusing on is what you're manifesting. So if you don't like what you see in your outer world, then you need to change first from the inner planes, and then it becomes visible in that outer world. Now, when we're talking Taurus energy, since the moon will be there today and all of tomorrow, up until later in the day tomorrow, we're talking about our resources. So money, our material comforts, right? The things that we earn, the things that make us feel good. Our physical senses, so everything to do with your smell, taste, touch. So it becomes a place where all of our physical senses become open and aware. It is about the enjoyment of life, right? Taurus loves life. They love being on the planet, feet on the ground here. They appreciate and they have gratitude for their creature comforts, for nature around them, for the people in their lives. So this is a time for all of us to focus on that appreciation and that gratitude. And I'm going to throw out another word for everybody. And this is one that's been banging in my head: simplicity, right? Mm-hmm. We have grown such a complex and complicated life that it's time for us to simplify, right? To let go of some of those crazy making things that we've been involved with in favor of the simple life, right? What does the simple life mean to you? It means maybe different things to different people, but sometimes it's just the simplicity of sitting and chatting with your kids or with your family members. Sometimes it's the simplicity of just going out and working in the garden. So simplify, big theme for our weekend. And of course, Taurus energy also takes us into building energy, building through having a solid foundation, right? We can't build a new earth on a weak foundation. We have to actually put into play the structures and the forms. We have to gain persistence and perseverance in the face of these weird things that are happening on the planet. Being reliable, patient, thorough, staying the course, right? Not giving up. Self-worth, another huge thing in Taurus energy. Having appropriate boundaries, and also self-acceptance and self-love. Remember, we're sitting in the gates of love right now in human design, the gate of the love of the physical being in the body, but also the gate of the divine or the universal love part of us that is embodied within us. So we have a lot of focus on the ability to love ourselves, and then we start to see how that love moves outward to others. Some of the low energies in Taurus that we want to watch out for is being inflexible, stubborn, attached to things being this way, my way, or my way or the highway, that saying, right? Resistance to change. That is a Taurian concept. And by the way, that's because Taurus is a fixed sign. And we also have Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, a fixed sign. Leo is a fixed sign. We have Venus in Scorpio, a fixed sign. So we are all sort of being asked to look at those places where we've been reluctant to change, where we're holding back a part of ourselves in resistance to seeing, basically the handwriting on the wall in which direction we need to move. Right. So don't resist change. It's coming. As well as, Taurus has that dogmatic opinions part in the negative. I have many Tauruses around me in my life, and every one of them at some point or another has professed a dogmatic opinion, and you can't budge them off of that. Now, if they're using that for the positive side, no problem. But often that gets them attached to an idea or a thought that makes it difficult for them to change. Health-wise, coughs, the throat, the thyroid, the neck, all parts of Taurus energy. The voice and the vocal cords as well inside. So that's the moon in Taurus today and tomorrow, Saturday late, 5:37 p.m. on the West Coast. So 8:37 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast. UTC time, I'd have to guess, maybe 11 p.m. for you all. The moon will move into Gemini. So the rest of the weekend becomes conversational. It becomes about possibilities. It becomes about writing and communicating. There is a major aspect happening over the weekend, Mars in a trine to Saturn. That establishes a flow of action toward a focused goal. So if you can become focused on a goal of love, spreading love and compassion, then you have the dynamo Mars taking action on your behalf, helping you with the action that it takes to move that out. I just want to make a note here for everybody, and then I'm going to have to go. For the weekend and into, let's say probably for the next month or so, we have a lot of air energy. We have Libra, Mars in Libra. We have Saturn in Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius. Those are both air signs. We have Mercury turning retrograde on the 26th, Sunday, in an air sign, Libra. So our relationships will be affected. Our communication within our relationships, our communication in general, how we share ideas, how we share concepts with one another. Watch for the next month or so how you say what you say to people. Very, very important. With Mercury retrograde, we have a tendency to walk on our tongue or to trip over our tongues. We say things we don't mean, or we say them in the wrong way or at the wrong time. So slow things down, simplify things. That's still going to be a part of it. And what was the other thing? Moon in Gemini over the weekend, also adding to the load of planets in air. So exchanging ideas, exchanging communication with one another, all favored. Just watch how you share your ideas. Don't make them dogmatic. Make them possibilities and not absolutes. And remember, tact and diplomacy, always a great Libran trait. Remember that with lots of air energy, we have the potential to be expansive. Air is expansive and moves into new territory. Next week, Monday, I will not be here. I'm out of town until Monday afternoon. But next week I may, I don't know, we'll have to see how I can do this. But next Friday, we will take up a look ahead at October's energy and look deeper into the retrogrades or the direct motion of the outer planets, and as well take a look at some of the other things happening in the month of October. Pia and Cullen, thank you so much for being with me this morning. It's been a pleasure, as always, to talk to you both. I've missed you. I'm so glad you're back with me, or that I'm back to have you with me. And we look forward to seeing you next month on the 15th of October.
Thank you, Janet. We look forward to being with you and your followers also. Yeah. Thank you very much. We love these conversations.
Yeah, we're really happy that we've reunited and that we'll be doing this again and again.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to all my listeners. Remember, thumbs up the video if you are on YouTube, share the videos, and most of all, spread love and compassion around the planet. We all need it. We can all use it. And I'll see you all next week. Take care. Much love. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.